I'm Gail Warner. I'm an interviewer for the Rodeo Historical Society. We're in Oklahoma City at the National Cowboy and Western Heritage Museum. It's November 10th, and we're with Jennifer Welch Nicholson, who got the Tad Lucas Memorial Award, and she is being awarded tomorrow night. Congratulations, Jennifer. What an honor.
It is such an honor. Oh my gosh.
Where were you born and when?
I was born in California, just outside of Redding. At that time, my family had holdings in a cattle ranch, and that's where I was born. Unfortunately, when some of the holdings were sold off, one of the things that they sold was a ranch, so I really never knew that was part of my history because I was so young. Mm-hmm. So by the time that my family, my dad worked for Welch Purina, and he got transferred back to a little town called Visalia, California. And once we got transferred back there, I was connected to a ranch called Riata Ranch. And I just have to tell you, the moment I stepped foot on that place, I was maybe 4 or 5 years old, I was a young girl, my passion was truly ignited. And it wasn't just about the horses, and it truly was. I wanted to ride horses, and that's why I went there. But it was the mentorship, it was the discipline, it was the lifestyle, it was the values being taught. There was definitely what we would call our code of the West. And I was hooked. Now, my family thought I just had a love of horses, but what they didn't understand is I was just a town girl. We lived in town, but I was hooked on the lifestyle, and I wanted that for myself, and I knew that's what I wanted to do when I was a little girl.
Wonderful. What a wonderful thing that you could follow up and do. So many little girls want to be cowboys or train engineers or whatever. That never happens. Who were your parents, and what did they do for a living? Did your mother work?
So my mother was a school teacher.
Okay.
And my father was a sales representative for Welch Purina. So my dad was always out on sales. My mom was an educator and became a reading specialist, and actually worked with people who had trouble learning to read. And her job was to figure out how to teach you how to learn. So she had a really difficult job. Unfortunately, growing up, I never really appreciated how wonderful my mother was at her job until my mom passed away in 2010. And just the stories that came out about what a great educator she really was very inspiring. So in my mother's eyes, that's what she wanted me to do, was to go into education. But that wasn't my passion. It wasn't what I wanted to do. I wanted to ride horses, but I didn't just want to ride horses. I wanted it as my lifestyle. Mm-hmm. It was like an addiction. It wasn't just, oh, I love horses and I want to go ride. It was more than that. I craved it. I wanted it. That's all I wanted to do was ride. So when I was introduced to this thing called trick riding, believe me, I didn't have any idea that there was such a thing about trick riding. I was going to ride rein cow horses. So when I first started Riata, let me back up a bit, that was my goal. I was going to own my own horse, we were going to go to horse shows, and I was going to ride rein cow horses. Because at Riata, it was common to be your mentor for the day was a young lady that had just won some state or national championship in Western riding. Mm-hmm. And the riders at Riata were champions, and that's what I was going to do. Somewhere along the line, the founder, Tommy Maier, brought in a young lady by the name of Kathy Batchelor. And while we would go out and take our riding lessons on our rein cow horses, before we would do that, we'd also have to take some time and learn how to do some trick riding. Well, I got to tell you something. I didn't know a thing about trick riding. I didn't know there was such a thing. I didn't know that anybody in their life could jump off and jump on a horse, moving at a fast rate of speed and survive it. Like, to me, that was just unheard of. I've never heard of such a thing. But I got hooked, and I loved it. And in 1976, there were 4 of us, out of all of the riders at Riata, there was 4 of us, we were all 13 years old. It was Jana Copley, Pee Wee Marino, Lori McWilliams, and myself made up this team. And that was another passion that really spoke to me. And we had great mentors. You know, at the time, now you have to understand, I didn't know anything about rodeo either. I mean, I was a horse show girl. But the way we worked the ranch like ranch hands, even though we were students. I mean, I could hitch a team of horses to a wagon. I learned to drive a team of horses before I could drive a car. But I didn't know anything about rodeo at all. And here we were thrust into this lifestyle, and it was Lex Conley and his wife at the time, Edith Happy. I didn't know who they were. I didn't know who Lex was. I did not know who Edith was. I didn't know. I still have today the outfits that she made us. She made our first costumes, and I still have my original trick riding outfit that she made when I was 13 years old. So the four of us, somehow we end up at this rodeo in Bakersfield. And I have to tell this first story because this is how green I was about, this is how green we were about rodeo. So we go to this rodeo, and the first rodeo cowboy that I met, I didn't even know they made cowboys like this at all, was Monty Hawkeye Henson. Now, as a 13-year-old, I didn't know there was characters in this world such as that. And then we go up and we meet this announcer, this young man, very charismatic, by the name of Bob Tallman. And everybody, and I mean everybody, was excited about a bull named Oscar. We got done with that rodeo that weekend, and I said, well, that's rodeo. I kind of like it. That was kind of fun. I'd like to do this. I'd like to do this. So anyway, the four of us, for the first 2 years, it was RSC Rodeo Company at the time, which was Bob Cook, Jack Roddy, and Jack Sparrick. They took a chance on hired this team of little 13-year-old girls, and from then we were gone every weekend in California, and then eventually Flying U Rodeo, Cotton Rosser. And I just tell everybody, I'm Flying U Rodeo raised. I was raised under the wing of Cotton Rosser and Flying U Rodeo as a rodeo performer. Mm-hmm. And you know, I think about those days and just, it was so intoxicating. And that even cemented my passion for horses and for performance now. Instead of wanting to bring cow horses, I knew I wanted to trick ride. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, we meet J.W. Stoker, Montana Senior. Next thing I know, we've got ropes in our hand. Now, I gotta tell you, it's a terrible trick roper. Could not trick rope to save my life. But if we wanted to be on the performance team, we had to learn how to rope. So Montana made 2 trick ropes for us. And at that time, you know, the girls going through the program and learning, there were about 10, 12 of us, and we'd make 2 lines, and you'd spin the rope till you couldn't spin it any longer. So, believe me, I was always in the line. But some girls, they started getting really good at it and could start, you know, really learning to spin their ropes. And I just, you know, the Gene McLaughlins of the world, I mean, Gene was very helpful to us at the time. Spent a lot of time with Montana Senior. First tournament of Roses Parade we were in with Monty. Just these great memories, but you have to understand, I was so young at the time, I didn't realize how lucky we were to be around these amazing legends. Mm-hmm. Really, they were legendary, but I didn't know that at the time. I was just, you know, a young kid learning the ropes, if you will, you know, making my way through. And I don't really know that I had a vision as to where I was going to end up. I just knew that I wanted to do this more than I wanted to do anything else, was to ride and to trick ride and to travel the world. I mean, that was another thing. Who knew we were going to travel the world? That wasn't something I said, okay, when I grow up, I'm going to trick ride and I'm going to travel the world. No, I just sort of followed. All I knew was what I wanted to do. And that was ride horses and have horses in my life. And wherever that took me, those were the opportunities that I was presented with. And I decided this is what I want to do. And I think now I look back and I think how important it is. I'm so glad now that I actually know who all these people are and where they fit in the whole scheme of our rodeo history. Because really at the time I didn't know. And that was my bite. That was my very beginning of starting down the road.
Okay, tell me about Tommy Maier.
Wow. He was charismatic. He was tough. But he had a vision And he did things that were just, how can I say that? I mean, they were cutting edge. They were cutting edge. But anything that he wanted to do with his students, he made sure he went and he found the best people to help him.
Okay, but Tommy Maier started
Yes.
Riata Ranch.
Tommy Maier was the founder. So in
Maier, you call it?
Yes.
Maier.
Yes.
Okay.
So his story is when he was a young boy, he lived in South Dakota, and he had an opportunity to come out to California with a friend who at the time had wild animals for the movies. And if it was just around World War II. There were a lot of the young men were off to war, and there were jobs to be had. So he came out to California and ended up in Hollywood, in Burbank, and got his start as a stunt double in the movies. But to him, that was never really being a real cowboy. He wanted to be a real cowboy, and living in the Dakotas, he was mostly just his family farmed, but he wanted to be a cowboy. So he thought being a movie cowboy wasn't really being a real cowboy. So the gentleman who had Mr. Ed, and I'm sorry, that name escapes me at the moment, but he knew the Gill family in Exeter, and at that time, the Gill cattle ranches were the largest in North America. They were the largest ranch holdings. So he got Tom a job at the Gill Cattle Company as a day job, as a cowboy. And so he worked under Adolph Gill. Well, while he was there, he also met Clay Carr and Gene Rambo, who lived in the area. Now, Clay Carr was an all-around world champion. And Clay taught Tommy to rope. So now he sort of switched over from being a day cowboy. Now he started competing as a calf roper, a tie-down roper, they called him. And he started roping. And that's what he was going to do. He was going to be a calf roper. And then he was involved in a car accident. And he was hurt. He was at his knees, and I don't know exactly his injuries, but his injuries kept him from being able to go down the road and compete. Well, at that time he was married and had 2 little boys, so he had to do something to maintain, a living. So the community came around and said, "Here, I'll take my boy out. You just teach him, give him roping lessons. You teach him to rope, teach him to ride, teach him, well, Tom didn't know anything about giving riding lessons. He knew how to harness teams of horses because he was, his families were farmers. He knew how to rope, and he knew how to do some ranch stuff. So if you came to Tom, those were the core values. And from that came this this riding school that built grit in people. You didn't just come out and take a riding lesson. You came out and you were taught how to be tough and to be gritty and to be disciplined. And once you learned to do all of those things, then you could move on and start, being considered to be maybe on, the horse show team or the junior rodeo team. And that was really the experience that if you talk to anybody from Riata from 1957 to present, there are certain things that make a Riata girl because we kept the integrity of the program. And one of them is, to be tough, to be gritty, to learn how to handle situations. I mean, and it's everything that Tad Lucas would have wanted, for young women coming into rodeo anyway, into this lifestyle. I say it's a toolbox. I say we're all born with an imaginary toolbox at our side. And what I teach my students, I'm starting to go a little bit off of what Tommy is, but I am a product of what Tom taught because I was with him for so long, is that make sure that you're with somebody that has a lot of tools in their toolbox. Some people only have 3 or 4 skills to work with, and I'm not necessarily talking about, being actively skillful. I'm talking just about your emotions and your character and your integrity and learning how to deal with conflict and being a good friend and having control of your emotions and being a doer and being a leader and having those kinds of skills. I said, you find somebody who's got a pretty full toolbox. That's what Tommy really taught all of his students. He just happened to do it through horsemanship, leadership, mentorship. That was his big thing. So he had this amazing writing. I'm going to go back to Tommy now, so I'm sorry, I took a little dive around, but this amazing writing school, and then this trick riding team. Well, I'm thinking that the performance team really came as a way, because he had all these young ladies that were winning state and national championships in Western riding. That was, I mean, it was just.
Is that what he was teaching them to
Yeah.
win
Yes. So
at events where?
and we had rodeo. We had, you know, one of our girls went on to be Miss Rodeo America. I mean, all the way through. So, not only were Riata riders better prepared in the arena, they just became better. They were better prepared to take on whatever activity he wanted them to do. So, running for rodeo queen was a common thing. So you would have a girl that was, say, a Ronnie Richards. No, it wouldn't be Ronnie Richards because I was too young. But you know, let's say state stock horse champion for
Mm-hmm.
you know 18 and under, 14 through 16, whatever the age group was.
Mm-hmm.
And then she'd also would go run for Miss Grand National and win it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just what he did. He just that's
Well,
what
she had the experience that most girls her age
Yeah.
did not have.
And etiquette. Oh, I can remember he would bring in a woman from Fresno, and we would have to learn how to stand and how to sit and how to talk and how to set a table. So a Riata girl was his full package,
Mm-hmm.
and that was Tom. I mean, that's what he wanted his girls to be able. His students, when you left Riata, he wanted you to not only be able to saddle a horse correctly or know everything you needed to know about horses and do that well, but be a contributing member of society and do that well. Because they always said, you always grow up to be, I don't know what you're going to do with your life, but you're going to grow up to be a lady, so let's make sure you are one. So, I mean, that was his vision, and that's why I just loved Riata, because it was so much. It wasn't just about horses, it was really about becoming a better leader and a better person, a better you. I just didn't quite know that at the time. You know, when you're going through, you know, and sometimes I didn't always like all the discipline that was thrown my way, but, you know, and also at that time I had to learn to choose between, you know, sometimes at teenagers we make very bad decisions. So I had to learn that it would, you know, if I had something to do the next day, I couldn't make those bad decisions, but, you know, and learning to be okay with that while your friends are all off doing something really cool that you really wanted to go do. But you made a commitment, and this is what you're going to do. You know, those kinds of things as you're growing up, I look back now, I think how lucky I was to have all of that. And
How many girls were with you on your?
oh my gosh, I have probably been on, there were 4 original girls.
Okay.
And then from there, I mean, I don't know how many different teams I've been. I mean, I've performed with so many. I mean, it's probably been hundreds.
But more, the team is generally 4.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't understand. Generally, sometimes it's more, but generally the main core is usually a group of 4 young ladies, and then sometimes there's more. We just kind of that are needing to learn to travel and to be a part of the team. But the only way you learn to do that, the only way you learn to cut your teeth is to go out and do it, right? So we do take girls that are just learning, but I always have girls coming on, and you know,
Well, there's a lot of change in those 4 girls
Yes.
and the girls
Yes.
beyond. There's times that they'll go on.
Right.
It's a passing. I had an employer tell me one time, I'd rather have passing brilliance
yeah,
than permanent mediocrity.
exactly.
And that is what you were doing in this. The brilliance might stay and do it to the utmost, but passing mediocrity just moved right on.
That is a great way to put it, because let's say we have 10 girls. Out of the 10 girls, there's probably 1 that really has
The whole
everything,
package.
the whole that it's going to take them to the level that they have to perform.
Mhm.
So what I've had to create was a way for people just to come in and do what we do as an enjoyable activity. But there's just, as you say, there's only a hand. I mean, it's so rare, you know, out of 10 girls, maybe 1, maybe none, you know, maybe none. But you only have maybe that 1 that really will commit and go to that next level, because the bar for excellence that we have to set for our team is pretty high. Everybody wants to do it until they figure out what it takes to do it. And that's where, let's go back to the tools I was talking about. The integrity, the grit, the problem solving, the making those just hard, tough decisions.
Not Not to go with the friends and have a good
Right.
time, but be there and.
And be able to be in the moment and say, I know this was the right decision for me. Well, I have to test all that at the ranch before I ever take him on the road, because that's a whole nother ballgame. That's a whole nother set of values that has to come into place. But even if nobody ever moves on, the one thing they will walk away with is, and this is my true goal, because I was not a rodeo girl, I wasn't a horse girl, I wasn't a ranch girl, I lived in town. So I had to learn this whole ideology and the code of the West and rodeo and ranching and Western lifestyle from the ground up. I didn't know anything, the boots, how to wear the hat, how to dress, how to be what I wanted to be. I had to make those sacrifices to become that person. It wasn't just because I wanted it. It wasn't just a costume I had to put on. I had to become me, right? So I think in today's world, we have to understand we have to be educators now. We have to educate people all the time, and especially in today's modern world. It's our responsibility to educate. So my goal is to pass on those same opportunities and to educate anybody who's willing to learn about what being a true person of the West is about.
Jennifer, I'm going to ask you a question.
Yes.
How did your parents and your family take what you were doing? How did they handle that?
Oh, well, my mother being an educator was not for this. Okay, you have to understand. She wanted me to, and I did go to college, but the problem was it was getting in the way of my traveling. Life was getting in the way of my passion. So my saying was, I just had to tell my Mom, I'm sorry, I'm joining the circus, and you're just gonna have to learn to deal with it. My dad, I don't know what he really thought about it, but when my mother first found out that I truly was not going to continue my education, and I should tell you a little piece about this. I went in and took my GED after my junior year in high school, and so I never went to my senior year because I got out a year early. Well, that didn't really set well with my mother, but I was so bound and determined.
You'd already found
what I wanted to do. I said, I don't need school.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need this. I already know what I wanted to go do. Well, luckily, my counselor agreed with me and said to my mother, and believe me, this is not a knock to anyone doing these jobs. She said, well, Judy, it's not like she's leaving school and just going to go get a job at McDonald's. She is going to start traveling, because we were going to go on the road, and if I was still in school, there was no way I was going to be able to. I don't know if you know this, but I also was in an all-girl band. And the all-girl band was going to Canada, and we were going to start in Quebec, and we were going to go all the way across the country of Canada. Well, there was no way I was going to be able to go do that, and then do 2 tours in Japan, and then do an East Coast tour starting in Madison Square Garden. I wasn't going to be able to do any of that if I was in school. I said, I don't need school. I'm just going to go do that. Mm-hmm. So it took a while. Because my family, you have to understand, kept saying, well, when she grows out of this, when she doesn't want to ride horses anymore and be a trick rider, and she's going to settle down and get married and have kids, I'm going to do all these things. And I kept saying, okay, well, after I get back from China, after I get back from Israel, after we get done making these commercials, after we get done doing this, and I kept saying, finally, when I was about 38, I said, Jennifer, I don't think there's going to be. After I get done, I think this is what you're gonna do. And so that is, and eventually my parents began to appreciate.
Did you have brothers and sisters?
I have a brother. He is, he's a winemaker, and he taught winemaking at Cal Poly in San Luis Obispo. He's now has his own label and has great wines.
Good.
And he and I are very, very close.
Good.
And so yeah, I have one brother.
Well, I'm sure it was harder for your mother to understand than maybe your dad. He was out and about. He was sales, you said.
Yeah.
So he could understand that travel, that end of it, and the appeal.
Yeah.
But what an interesting life, Jennifer, and you had to make a decision.
I did, and I got married, but very late in life because I always chose career.
Well, let's back up
Yeah.
a little bit. You took over.
Okay, yeah, let's back up. So I do have to say, Tom got very ill in the last years of his life, and things financially and personally and every which way you can imagine just started to take a nosedive.
Mhm.
And I honestly thought that when he passed, we would just distribute assets and everybody would move on and we would call it a day, and that would be that. And when he did finally pass away, that was my intent. However, I had a dear friend come to me and say, Jennifer, if you walk away now, all of this goes. And I said, well, maybe it should, because we don't have a ranch, we don't have any money, we have a legacy, we have a name, we have no girls, no team. There's, like you're talking about starting completely over. He said, yes, I am. I said, okay. I said, all right, I'll give it a try. I said, but man, if it doesn't work after a year or two, and it doesn't work, I'm out of here. Well, once I got started, I became laser focused. Like, I have to make this work. So when Tommy passed away, we dissolved the business, and then we restarted it as a 501c3. So, well, we never made any money. Well, it was a for-profit. Let's see what we can do as a nonprofit. So, but the trouble was, I knew nothing about running a nonprofit. And I got to tell you, maybe the hardest thing there was two very, very difficult things. Number one, no one had ever run Riata Ranch except for the founder, and I'm not blood related. So, there were 3 camps of people. A camp that said, who do you think you are? And we don't support you. The camp that said, good luck, we'll be thinking about you. And then and there weren't very many in the last one, but the last one was, we're here to help, what can we do? We're going to make this work.
We're going to do it.
So I just had to put blinders on and move forward. And I had to get over, there was a lot of pushback. And I just wasn't used to that. I was Tom's right-hand girl. Everybody used to tell me, oh, Jennifer, you're so wonderful. You're doing such a great job. Oh gosh, Tom's so lucky to have you, to questioning every decision I was making, everything I was doing. And it just got to where I said, I can't listen to the negativity.
Who was doing this?
Oh, it was in general. It was
Okay.
kind of in general.
Mm-hmm.
And I just decided I can't listen to the negativity. I have to take constructive criticism, I will, but just kind of flat out, we hope you fail. And I'll never forget, I was talking to one of Bob Tolman sits on our board, and I remember I called him one day and said, I never knew I could do so wrong so quickly. I said, whatever happened to a girl with a pass on the back? I said, those are far and few between these days, but that's okay. So I put these blinders on and I was just chugging along. And one of the things that I was asked to do a year after I'd taken over the program, and Gail, there was nothing, there was no money. I mean, we were literally starting over. So, it was 14, 16-hour days and just doing whatever it took to make it happen. So then we got asked to perform at our local rodeo in Woodlake. And I thought, all right, I'm either going to sink or swim in our community's eyes. I'm either going to go out there and I'm going to say, Jennifer, that was wonderful, or I'm going to say, wow, you're not Tommy Maier, and that just wasn't good. And I kept hearing that a lot. Well, Tommy wouldn't do it like this. You're not Tommy. You know what? You're exactly right. I am not Tom. There's only certain things I can do. I can only take the integrity of the program with me and the lessons that he taught me and the values. But you're exactly right. I am not him. So I have to find a way to do this my way, but still try and maintain. So we're at this rodeo. I meet this rodeo announcer. I'm not really paying attention to him because I'm more concerned about what's going to happen in the arena in about 3 hours, and that it has to be really good. So I'm trying to tell him what we do. He's sort of listening to me, but we're not really connecting. And I was just like, well, just follow along, you'll get it. We'll be fine. So it comes time for us to do our act. And as we go in and we're starting to do our thing, I can hear the announcer get more and more excited about what's happening. By the time we got done, I knew it was good.
He believed it.
So I didn't get a chance to talk to him. So the next day, I found him. I was going to go and make sure were there any changes we needed to make. And before I could walk up the steps, he comes down and he meets me, sticks his hand out. Said, "That's the best thing I have ever seen. That is great. This is wonderful." And I went, "Phew. Okay." Finally. So then 6 months later, I work again with this announcer. And he kept asking me out to dinner. But I thought he was married, and I thought, no, I'm not going to do this. But finally, I just said, okay, fine, I'll go to dinner with you. Anyway, I won't go through the whole story, but about halfway through dinner, I knew I was going to marry him. And that was Chad, Chad Nicholson. And so I met Chad, and then when Chad came into my life, because he did not know Tommy Maier, he helped me really sort what I needed to hold on to and things I needed to let go of, because there were some things I needed to let go of, and I couldn't see the forest for the trees. I have to say that I am where I am today because Chad came in and helped me make those necessary steps, and they were hard, they were difficult. We found property, we rebuilt the program, we were chugging along, we had girls, we'd been nominated, he helped me get a team, my teams together, we've been nominated 5 times for Rodeo Specialty Actor of the Year, the PRCA, and things were just really looking up and looking forward, and I found my soulmate, and I thought, wow, this is great, finally I have everything I've ever wanted. I have a man that loves me, I got the program somewhat, financially we're viable, and we have a ranch, have it all. I thought, this is it, this is my life, oh my gosh, I finally did it. And then Chad was killed.
And then what?
Chad was killed.
What happened?
He was in a freak accident.
A
A freak automobile accident.
Oh, no.
And now I just thought, now what? Now what? Now what do I do? I mean, the person that helped me get here, now how do I do this? And that happened in 2019. So, again, I had to, once again, that reinvention to strive forward and to keep going. I'm just, again, I have to go back to all of my life experiences before that life is going to be hard, things are going to be tough. That's what our industry is. Nothing is ever easy. Life is not easy. So you have to find ways to continue, and part of that is having the confidence and the belief in yourself that you can do it, and not losing your dream, not losing your focus, not losing your goal. But you got to have good people around you to do that. And that is another thing that I've learned, just even, in this rodeo family of ours is amazing, because when that happened, the love that I felt and the community support that came around me and just told me, you can do this, keep going, you can, got me through that first year of, now what do I do? Because it was just so sudden. I wasn't prepared for that. Plus, then COVID hit, and then my dad died. So all within a year, the two gentlemen that were going to help me run my ranch, my dad and my husband died, and then we had COVID. So when we came out of that, everything has really changed, and I had to rebuild my circle of close people, and not necessarily change my focus of what I wanted, but change my strategy of how to move forward. And
did you lose girls during the COVID thing?
Oh, my entire team went away. Because they were older.
Did you have any jobs?
No, because we lost all of our jobs. The only thing that stayed open was my Airbnb, because people coming from Los Angeles needed to get out of the city. But we weren't really giving, we were giving some lessons, but COVID really decimated the girls, because of my team. A lot of the girls were from overseas or out of town. And I just told them all to go home. I said, I don't know how long this is going to last. I don't know what I can offer you through all of this. Don't get stuck here. Go home to your families. And if it's meant to be, we will regroup after we get through all this. Well, by the time that all really kind of just, ended, I guess is the best way to say it. By that time, a couple of my girls had been married, a couple of them had other jobs, they had really moved on. So I had to start all over again. So I did it. So I started training all over again. And I'm happy to say that those young girls that I started training in 21 are now in Las Vegas as I'm sitting here without me, performing at the Union Plaza Hotel at the Las Vegas State Rodeo this weekend. I'm pulling that off. So the legacy of Riata will continue, and that's the whole point of what I'm doing now. I mean, my days of trick riding, I loved to trick ride. I was wonderful. I got really good at it. I got to do some great things, NFL halftime shows, performing for the Queen of England, made commercials, got to do a lot of great things. But at some point I won't be doing that anymore, and wouldn't it be a shame for this to end? There has to be a continuing legacy. So with the help of my dear friend Alexandria Miner, who helps me at the ranch daily, we are continuing connecting people to horses. That's what we want to do. We're connecting people to our lifestyle, to the horse program, to the ranch. Ride for the brand first, and then we will see out of that who wants to take that next step, so we can continue also the legacy of the Cowboy Girls.
Obviously, the complete shutdown of COVID made you and all your experiences previously to that time, the way you started again was different than you had before.
Yes. The difference is I already had some footing underneath me. When I started in 02, when Tommy passed away, there just wasn't anything. It was me and a legacy, and just sheer grit and determination to pull us up and rebuild. When COVID hit, I'd already had a pretty good foundation, and one of the things that the next learning lesson in my life between 02 and COVID was it's all about relationship building. And one of my tenets, I have 5 tenets that I work with. It's horsemanship, leadership, mentorship, education, and community service. Well, I got into the community service part of it pretty deep. I'm pretty heavily involved in our local community, different service organizations, and making sure outreach and do things. So I have a pretty good network that is able to work through to help keep everything going while we were in the midst of COVID. I always knew that as soon as it was over, we would hit the ground running. I did not know that in 02. Like 02 when I took over and there was nothing. To me every day I had no idea what my obstacles were going to be or if I could make it. I don't have that kind of fear anymore. To me there's always the hope and having resources to move forward. Like I said, this rodeo community is something that's just unbelievable in their support of what we do. And it isn't just about having a performance team, but keeping that code of the West alive and educating people about what we do. And I know I've said this before, I'm going to feel like a broken record there, but that's really my main focus.
It's not. Repeat it as often as you want, because it's important.
It is very important, and again, we have to be educators today. This is our job. This is my job, is to educate not only young ladies on how to travel down the road and to carry on the Tad Lucas legacy, because that's basically what we're doing. That's what I'm trying to do. Working towards with all those roles, but just basic understanding about when you step onto a ranch, what that is, and the etiquette and the discipline, and sometimes the harshness of being on a ranch and what that lifestyle can be, because it's not all beautiful and romantic. There's hard times, there's hard things, but that's life.
You step in a little manure once in a while.
You do, and the weather. I mean, last year where we live, we don't get snow where I live, so I don't have to worry about that. But man, the rain, the flooding, the Mother Nature, the things that Mother Nature throws at our farmers and our ranchers, And those of us that rely on livestock, you know, there's just a lot of, you never know. I mean, you're at her mercy, if you will. So just learning how to move through that and understand this will pass. So
How do you travel?
right now we have a truck and we have a trailer, and like I said, I only take about 4 girls on the road. If there's more, then we figure out another transportation, but I try and keep it all under one.
But you can put all the horses in
Yes.
the trailer and,
Yeah.
and the girls and
Yeah.
all in.
And that's another thing, you know, leaving your family and hopping in a vehicle with your teammates. Now they have to become your family, learning to rely on other people and how to become a team player and work within that
Oh, yeah.
environment and get along with each other, because you know, not always going to agree, but you have to learn how to keep that symbiotic going, so that, you know, there's a lot of things to this. It isn't just about and when you grow up in the industry, you understand. If you have family that's in the ranching or rodeo, going up and down the road, they grew up doing it, and it's an easy thing. It's not so easy if you've never done it before, because you have to learn how to travel. You have to learn how to budget your money. You have to learn how to have late nights, early mornings. You may not like the food that's in front of you, but that might be the only food you're going to get for the next 8 hours. You know, how to just adjust and handle your emotions, how to be up and how to be down, how to not get so emotionally high that you just have this big crash. You have to learn how to keep yourself pretty even and manage your emotions, and then replicate it the next day. You know, if you're getting ready for a show, how to recircle your mind to go right back to that same focus and be just as good day 2 and 3 and 4 as you were on day 1.
And I'm sure you've had this happen, and I'm going to throw it to you just as an example. Let's say you have a girl that normally does everything that she's supposed to do, and then all of a sudden one day I can't do it. I can't do it. What do you do?
First thing I try to do is figure out why. What was that? What happened?
Mm-hmm.
I did have that happen with a young lady that just had some family trauma that was just so overwhelming,
Mm-hmm.
that it broke her. And she was she was just amazing. She was so good at what she did. And the first thing I had to do was to be understanding that emotionally she just couldn't do this right now. And it's hard. I had to, you know, I've never had children of my own, but learning to let go. It's just, when I get so attached that I had to learn to let go. I had to.
Passing brilliance.
Yeah, and I had to let her, and you know, and like exactly, passing brilliance. And you know, when she moved on, there was another young lady that just blossomed and was able to step up, and then we just had another skill set that I hadn't had before, and so I could focus on her skill set, and so I could bring out the best in that person. So it depends on the situation and who it is. Sometimes we just come to an understanding that our journey has come, and we're now at a crossroads. And you know, the way I've looked at it, I had to work on this, because I would somewhat take it personally sometimes. What didn't I do? How couldn't I have helped you? Why am I not adding value to your life anymore? What's going on? And sometimes you just come to the end of this journey, and you have to part. Mm-hmm. But guess what? Sometimes you come together on the other side. And so one leaves, like you said, that passing brilliance, but then what you find out is you have another person here that has a totally different skill set that you can focus on, and they can step up, and they won't replace that person, but you have a different way of presenting what you do. So in some ways, for me, it's wonderful, because it really keeps the act fresh, because you never know who's gonna. You never know. Right now, I have a young lady that is an amazing Roman rider, and she's doing great things. So it's fantastic.
I'm sure that all the girls have some specialty part of what they like best or what they do best, and it's not always the same, hopefully.
It isn't. Some are just better at the trick riding.
Mm-hmm.
Some actually are better at the trick roping and prefer to do roping and not really the riding part. And then you have some that will the gamut, you know, the Liberty horses, or they'll want to try new things, or the Roman riding. I mean, different girls, different passions. And that's okay. At one time, I thought everybody needed to learn to do everything, but I do. The one thing I am really trying to keep going is the trip roping, because it's such a lost art. And so I do require that all the girls, we have now what we call the red, white, blue, silver, and gold levels. And I do require that the girls, everyone at least know how at least to do the red level roping. Because I'm going to tell you something, some of my greatest experiences I've ever had was not with a horse, but was with that trick rope. It's a lot easier to put a trick rope in a bag and take it on a plane than it is a horse. So I said, be diversified, have something else that you can do. Say when we performed for the Queen, they didn't want us to trick ride because they had the Cossacks there. So our main entertainment was they had 3 stages, and we were set on the stages and we trick roped during the whole USA presentation. We were like the dancers, but we just happened to have trick ropes. So it was, a major part of the act. So I really worked
exciting. You were with the Cossacks and the Queen.
It was amazing. It was so fun. 18 countries, and this is what I learned about the Queen of England. When she was 24, she and her husband at the time, Prince Philip, were on their honeymoon, had gone up, they were in Kenya, and they'd gone up a tree to do some bird watching. And then her father had passed away while they were doing that. So the Kenyans have a saying that she went up the tree of Princess and came down the tree of Queen. So for her 60th Diamond Jubilee, they invited the 18 countries that she visited her first year. And we were to bring our horse culture and the native culture and our horses and put, so all these different countries put on a performance.
Okay.
And so we were part of the USA contingency that went over.
Well, how exciting.
It was very exciting. I actually got to meet her.
And what did she say about the girls?
So I got to talk about Riata, and this is a great story. So I got to meet her, and I had asked if I could give her a present. They said yes. I said, well, Chad had given me his beautiful wild rag that I had not even taken out of the package yet. So I asked Chad if it'd be all right if I gave it to the Queen. Talk about regifting. Holy mackerel. Anyway, I regifted to the Queen of England. But so I had this wild rag. So so Chad said I could. So I said, okay. So I got invited to go to the castle to Windsor, and we had tea with the Queen, and she came out and she met everyone that was there. So I talked to her about the Riata, a little bit about the ranch. She had about 2 minutes with her, not very long. And then I asked her, I said, I'd like to present you with this scarf. So she had a great big smile on her face. Oh, yes. So she moves on. Well, her assistant came up to me very excited, very, very excited. Said, oh my gosh, I need all your contact info because you will get a thank you letter from the Queen, and also be watching on Facebook because I'm pretty sure she's going to wear that scarf. So, all right. About a year later, my husband is going through Facebook. Hey, Jennifer, here's a picture of Prince Philip and Queen Elizabeth riding together. And she had on the scarf that I gave her. I said, that's the scarf. That's the scarf. So she got to wear the scarf. So she had a little piece of Riata. She had a little piece of me with her,
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Jennifer, that's a great story.
Yeah.
Great story. What's the most unusual place you ever had to perform?
Well, there's a couple. I would say, I don't know if it's so unusual. I just don't know if anyone's ever done this again. And I gotta tell you, it was not necessarily my favorite because it was so tough. But when we went to China, we were there for an entire summer. Now, Hong Kong was amazing. I thought, oh my gosh, we're going. I thought, if it's like this is gonna be great fun. But it wasn't. Oh my gosh. You get on this hydrofoil, you go across the bay, and you hit mainland China, and it was back then it was totally different. It wasn't Hong Kong. It wasn't.
What was this? What year?
87. And so we get to China, and we get to the mainland, and it was depressing. I mean, it was 50, 60 years behind anything modern. I mean, it just was a whole different vibe. And it was just difficult. It was a difficult country to be in. For me, I was 22. I always tell people, I just need big pastures to run in with my life. Like I like to do a lot, I want to live a big life, but there, it's a communist country and everything was regulated and we were watched and we were, nothing was spontaneous. It was not one of my favorite countries to perform in. So I don't know if that's the most unusual, but it definitely was probably the toughest for me.
And did you
mentally.
perform at, where were you in China?
It was in the Guangzhou province, and there was they had like an amusement park called Pearl Land, because they also harvested pearls right there.
Mm-hmm.
So we would do it. It was a show that we did there, and it for me was one of the hardest, mentally just toughest shows I had to do to mentally prepare myself every day to go do this, because I just didn't feel good to me. I felt like I was had a coat on that was too small the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
I felt very blocked. Maybe that's just my own spirit, and we weren't allowed to make friends with anybody there. That was the craziest thing. They kept changing guards, and the people who helped us was every 2 weeks we'd have somebody new. But here's something. But we did have one guard that would ride on the bus with us every day to and from the hotel. Well, one day he gets on and he's got a AK-47. I didn't think much of it. He wasn't threatening or anything, but he's on there with well, I'm not really paying attention, and then we get to the hotel, and there's like a lot of police cars, kind of about like security out front. Again, not thinking anything is China. Okay, oh yeah, now they're really doubling down on it. But what it was there was a political group. The French embassy had intercepted a plot. They were trying to kidnap one of us girls for political. So we had this extra layer of security, and now even our day off was taken. We weren't allowed now to go on our day off. So I didn't write home and tell my mom about that. I didn't tell her about that till years later. I think about 10 years later, I think I finally told her. That isn't something you write home, But yeah, I think somewhere there's still the note somewhere.
I think that's hilarious. Were you scared?
No.
When you heard it?
No, I was angry because now I really couldn't have any freedom. No, I wasn't scared because it never occurred to me to be scared about that. To me, it was just now another layer of security. I mean, everywhere we went, we were we couldn't be by ourselves, other than once we went into the room. We were escorted everywhere you went, and if you've never had to have that, it's not cool. It's not normal. But to have every action outside of your own hotel room where you are to be constantly monitored, that just doesn't set well with my own spirit.
Well, it's a different culture.
Yeah.
Totally different.
Yeah.
Very, very difficult for Americans to understand.
Yes.
Europe's not so bad.
No.
In a lot, everybody looks like us, but it's different.
It's different, and every culture is different.
Yeah. And wonderful experience. As far as education, you got an education.
I got one. It just wasn't in a classroom. And when I run into girls that have the kind of passion that I had and I recognize it, I'm very careful how to develop that passion, because the set of circumstances around my life made all of that available and all those opportunities. And I just, it's not an easy decision to make. When you start to make your own path, when you decide you're going to cut your own path, that's not necessarily the easiest way to go do something.
Yeah, well, you're not doing the norm.
You're not doing the norm. So, if you're going to do that, is what I tell everyone, then you have to prepare yourself for this. You have to prepare yourself for the hardships that you're going to run into, but you can't look at them like hardships. You've got to understand that these now are your obstacles, but if you can get to the other side, if you make it to the other side, and your successes will be there for you, but it's not just laid out for you. There's not a template for this. You have to make it on your own. And so, you know, when I think about the things that I know about Tad Lucas and what I read about her, and you know, she created her own life and her own way forward. And so when I was notified of this honor to be, you know, something that I would be able to receive this year, I thought to myself, well, you know, you did carve your own path. I didn't choose the easy way, that is for sure. I chose something, I followed something that was my passion and what I wanted to do, and to maintain the integrity of what we do, and to pass on all this knowledge, and like you said, all this real education that I got on the road, the real was not learned in a classroom, it was real life living. I wouldn't have traded it. I wouldn't trade it for the world.
What are you doing next?
So after this, I will go home, and we are preparing for 2024. We have some educational programs that we're putting together at the ranch, where we're going to be reaching more of our own students in our community, create programs that will have a bigger outreach than what we're doing now. My performance team obviously will head to the national finals. We will be in Las Vegas, and right now we're Macy's at the Tournament for Roses Parade. So we've got quite a few things going on.
Do you do that every year?
Not every year. It's been a few years since we've done it. But this year we may be riding on a float. So
On a float?
Oh,
Oh, you're not riding horses
no,
then?
maybe on a float.
Oh,
And so
okay.
one of the selling points for this is the fact that I'm receiving the Tad Lucas Award. So.
That's great.
And so they may, you know, so we'll see where that goes, but then again, it's building for 24 and 25. I'm already booking rodeo dates for the team in 2025, but Alex and I are going to be working on even growing our programs for our Tulare County Office of Education where we live, so we will be doing outdoor educational programs for.
One of the things you have not said is, where have you been outside of the United States and Canada? Just run
gosh.
through a lot of the.
Israel, Australia, Japan, China, Uruguay, Italy, France, England, just 22 of them. Sorry,
Well, in other words, you've been everywhere.
everywhere. Everywhere, yeah. Probably, Spain. I think probably one of my favorite shows ever is when we did the halftime show for the American Bowl. Between the San Francisco 49ers and the Pittsburgh Steelers, we were the main halftime show there at Olympic Stadium. We did lots of things at the NFL for quite a while. So been everywhere, and absolutely have enjoyed it and loved it. Germany, of course. You know.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Jennifer. This, you certainly have deserved the Tad Lucas Award.
Thank you.
It's very special. I had an opportunity to meet Tad before she passed, several times, and it's an amazing woman.
She truly.
And you are an amazing woman.
Thank you. I did not get to meet Tad. I did know Mitzi. I got to meet Mitzi, and of course I know Kelly, but I didn't get to meet Tad. But I know she's amazing, and believe me, I'm so honored that I will be this year's recipient.
Well, tomorrow night is going to be very exciting, and I'm so glad you have your friends here.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for taking this time to be with us and telling your oral history.